Hey guys, Puzzleman 945 here. Welcome back to another video. In today's video, I am going to be reviewing an anime that I just finished watching, and that is Black Clover. And I'm just gonna like go right in. Black Clover is better than Demon Slayer, Jujutsu Kaisen, Bleach, and Dragon Ball Z. It is absolute heat shonen. It is so, so, so good. Um, so I guess to kind of start at the beginning, I absolutely love Asta and Yuno as characters. I think that well, for one, I absolutely love their dynamic as rivals, but also best friends. Because it's so wholesome and seeing the two of them constantly working to improve together. I love like the dynamic that the two of them have together. But as individual characters, both of them are also absolutely fantastic. Um, Asta is um I love the fact that Asta in this world with magic is like the one person that uses anti-magic. I think that's so like such a unique like immediate inverse on the power system that I've never seen done before. Um and seeing him like be able to evolve those abilities into unlocking various stages of his devil form was extremely awesome and really, really cool. Uh, I also think that Asta in general, I love his relationships with every other character. Um, he in general kind of reminds me of a combination between like Luffy and Ash, I guess, in terms of protagonists, which I think is super, super interesting. Um, and then I love that he gets the wind spirit. That leads to a lot of funny interactions where Sylph constantly wants to go on a date, Bell, whatever her name is, with the which I think was is really funny. Um, and he is so crazy powerful, and it feels and even though gets less screen time in comparison to Asta, I think the show does a really, really good job of balancing it out just to where almost like I wouldn't say gets more hype moments, but he kind of tends to get more major like episodes centered to himself, which and arcs, which I think is uh I just think it's balanced really, really well between Austin, um, and it's and I feel like even more than Asta, you're really rooting for in particular to succeed with what he's doing. Um, and I really, really like that about a lot. I think that all of his wind magic spells are so, so crazy awesome. Uh, and those are just the first two of a ton and ton of characters. Um, um, so to begin with, um, I will go with my favorite character, which is Yami. I love Yami's dark magic. I think he's such a complete badass, and I think he's absolutely hilarious. He's one of the funniest characters with his quips and how many times he needs to go to the bathroom and such. But then when he shows up in battle, he really proves he's literally one of the most powerful Magic Knight captains. Um, and I love the correlations between how him and Asta are so similar. Um, I think it creates a really, really interesting dynamic between the two of them. Um, and and yeah, he's just such a complete badass, and he has so many awesome fights, and that is what is my favorite character. Um, Another one of my favorites is the Wizard King, Julius. I think that he is so funny, and I'm so glad that he didn't actually die to Patry, and that he was able to live again, even though it was as a 13-year-old. I think the fact that he's a complete nerd about magic is super funny, and I love his relationship with Yami and Vanjant and the backstory that goes into both of them together. Um, um, Other characters I really like. I love Luck. I think Luck is super funny. I love his like desire to battle, and his backstory is like one of the saddest in Black Clover. Especially like when they're redeeming him from his elven self. I'll get to the elven part later because oh my god. But I also really, really like Noelle. She was a little bit irritating at first, but she very quickly grew on me. Because I think that, number one, I think the gag of her having a crush on Asta, but refusing to admit it is so, so funny. I do think the I'm royalty line gets a bit old sometimes. Um, but she has such amazing character development, especially in like the later stuff with the Heart Kingdom and Laura Petzka and stuff. But also like trying to prove herself to Nozel and the rest of her family is a really like it's a very much like long term type character arc, and I think that it works really really well. Because it's kind of like little bits of it get sprinkled in there now and again, especially because like Noelle is a character that often gets strengthened with other characters together, and I think that often creates for a lot of really, really awesome pairings. Like Noelle and Kahano in the Underwater Temple arc, just to name an example. I also really like Magna, not Magna, Magna. I think he's really funny. Um, and I like a lot of the members of Black Bulls. I liked Vanessa's backstory as well, and I think the fact that she can use like the thread of fate is really interesting and such a unique kind of magic. Um, Gordon is one of the funniest characters in the whole show, and I'm so glad that he can actually talk, near the end of it. But it's so funny to see just like him being a total creep at so many points. Um, I like Gray. I think the gag of her being this like tiny like girl is really funny. Um, um, Gauche, I think, has interesting magic, but my God, this is a negative I have. They play on the Marie thing a bit too much, I'd say. Um, and um, I also love Henry. He's so nice and wholesome of a character. I love Henry. Um, I think that in terms of other Black Bolt, I think Zora is a extremely fascinating character who gets a ton of development, especially during the Royal Knights exam arc, when you're still learning his powers. Um, so yeah, I think in general that's really, really interesting. Um, like the fact that he kind of defined what it means to be a magic knight. I think he's a great character. Um, the guy about covers everyone in the book bowls. So kind of moving on to other squads and major characters in their squads. Um, Leona is one of my favorite characters because she is a complete badass and crazy powerful and just crazy in general, and she's awesome. Another one of my favorite characters is Fuegoleon, even though there's a large chunk of the story where he's like not really uh there, I guess. Um, I nonetheless love um his kind of like stern seriousness and kind of his like how much advice he's able to give to Asta as if he was like a second mentor of sorts. Um and and that kind of dynamic is extremely interesting to me. Uh Uh, I also really like Leopold. I think that he has a kind of tropey, but also like an arc of like trying to prove himself to people who are better than him. That works well enough to me. I think it's driven by the fact that it's all like within the same family. I think that part of it really helps him, and I think that he's a cool character to watch. Um, uh, Nozel grew on me the more the show went on for, because like I again it's kind of the same thing with Noel, but I love how much their relationship is built up bit by bit. It's something that really works for both of them as characters, as like stuff is slowly built up about them. Um I always thought Vengeance was such an enigma of a character in the beginning. His World Tree magic is broken, and I love his like past with the Wizard King, and also the fact that he like shared the same body as Patri. Um, and from here is where I'm going to kind of transition into talking about the elves because my God, the elves are some of the most fascinating characters in this entire show. Um, I love how, I love how there's so much mystery as to what is going on with the history of the elves. Um, because you see the same backstory sequence over and over again, but like nothing is revealed. But you just see the same thing from the perspective of so many different possessed elves, which I think is so like fascinating. Um, like for example, like the Charlotte possessed elf, um, and kind of a little bit of a side thing. My favorite gag in the whole show is the fact that Charlotte is in love with Yami. That makes me laugh every single time. But uh, I I think that like the entire like dynamic and motives of the elves and the fact that so many of them were actually like killing when they didn't want to is this like wonderfully tragic and heartbreaking but genius in terms of writing angle to go for. And I think it just gives the elves so much depth as characters. And that brings me to Patri, who is such a fascinating villain. Like particularly because he shares a body with Vangeance and seeing the relationship with the fact that Vangeance is like his only human friend, where he despises like every other human, is so interesting. And the fact that he's in the same body, is like that he's not actually licked, was amazing to see. Um, and in general, I find that his like motivations were by far some of the most interesting in the whole show. Um, and seeing his like essentially like redemption arc was amazing. Um, I don't think he's my favorite elf though. I think my favorite elf, honestly, is still Riot. Um, for several reasons. Because one, he presents this extremely interesting like counter dynamic because he is this disloyal person, and so he can see through lies and he can make up lies, and he knows when people are telling secrets. He can see right through all that stuff. It gives him such an interesting perspective, and he has and like in almost every one of the other like possessed elves backstories, Raya also happens to be there. I think his copy magic is so cool. One of the coolest kinds of magic in the entire series. Um, and I think that he has so much character depth, and he was always the most powerful member of the Third Eye, and no one can change my mind on that. And then, man, the twist that there was this entire like race of devils, and the fact that this devil was the one that manipulated the entire history between elves and mankind, and to see the relationship between Lit and Lumiere, the first Wizard King, and the fact that the first Wizard King shows up again, and the fact that they can end their friendship properly by both going away at the same time was just it's this perfect like full circleness come together. It's just amazing. Um and I love like the payoff, actually the beginning, and like the fact that, of how everything is explained to the demon that you see in a recap of the episodes for like the first long bit of the show is like it's revealed that like Lick became the demon and Lemire had to kill him. Um Man, it's such like powerful stuff there. Um And also, one episode 119 is one of the hypest episodes of anime ever. Like the way that just like both those two together, and Asta and all come together, and Yami too, to just completely obliterate Zagred was so satisfying. Um, Speaking on the Devils a little bit more. I think it's such an interesting concept, and I love each of the Spade Kingdom possessed like people. But oh man, it was close to be. It was so easy to hate them for taking away Yami after they just finally defeated the Dante guy. Um, that is literally one of the best fights in the whole show. Yami and Asta versus Dante. That was so satisfying on so many levels. Um, and I love the concept of demons as a race in general. Um, it's so interesting, and I can't wait until more episodes of the anime are released to where like that is even further explored. Um, uh, for a second. So kind of moving into things that are not about characters. I didn't mention every single character, but I got a lot of my favorites, I think, and I got like a major rundown of a lot of different stuff. Um, Another thing that this show does so good is the openings. Basically every opening is like a straight banger, and I have like several favorites, namely 4, 10, 12, and 13. I counted 5. 4, 10, 12, and 13. I love all those openings, but all of them are really good, and the OST in general is really really good. The animation also looks so good, especially in like the unique like almost 2D type sequences where Asta is communicating with his devil. That style also works really really well. Um, and it's like this nice like transition and my God, some of the action animation looks absolutely unbelievable at times. Um, and um last thing I think I wanted to talk about is the humor. Um, Black Clover is so funny. I've kind of referenced a few of my favorite gags before, but like the fact that um Mimosa and Noel both have a crush on Asta is hilarious. Charmy having a crush on Yuno is also really funny. Um, Charlotte being in love with Yami is my favorite gag in the whole show. And there are so many absolutely funny moments where just the humor, like the visual comedy is just um it's genius. That's the only way I can think of to put it. Some of the jokes are just so unbelievably hilarious that like they just make me die laughing. They're so funny and the humor is so rich. Uh, so that's definitely something that I really like about it. And in general, when you consider all of that together, it is peak shonen. It is so entertaining and exciting and heartbreaking and like keeps you on the absolute edge of your seat. I love Black Clover a lot, and you should definitely watch it. It's so worth it. But that is going to be all for me. Thank you for watching, and I will see you later. Bye.